The competition for labor and for employees at the moment is the highest I've ever seen it. What does competition mean? Well, it means great for the employee, terrible for the employer. Constantly, there's cost increases associated with people, wages increases, and that pressure that it has on a business. In this video, we want to explore the ways to try to control the narrative. Try to control the narrative around how your pay and wage administration is done with your team members. So the first thing is, as I said, control the narrative. When you have team members coming to you, you know that the cat is sort of out of the bag at that point in time because you're caught on the back foot. You also don't have a plan in place to methodically work through each team member depending on what value they're adding to the business. The first step is quantifying each team member. Well, that sounds like a classic accountant, doesn't it? Quantifying each team member. What do we mean by that? List out every single one of your employees. Now, if you've got a business where you've got dozens and dozens of team members, you might need to get sections of this done by managers because they will have a better insight into some of the answers to these questions. And score them on a ratio of 1 to 10. 1 being worst, 10 being best. Question number 1, if that person was to leave tomorrow, how disappointed would you be in your business? Number 1 is when they're telling you that they're leaving, you're trying not to smile. And number 10 is when they come in and tell you you're devastated. That's the first element. The second part is how easily can they be replaced? Because you might have somebody who you'd be thrilled to see leave at a personal level, but what they bring to the table is not easily replaced, especially in the environment we live at the moment. So you would rather have the individual who's a bit of a pain in the backside, but because they're bordering on almost impossible to replace at the moment, we have to live with that. The score you need to carry forward out of those two questions is the higher of the two. So using a worst case example, someone you can't stand, so there'd be a 1 out of 10 if they left tomorrow, but they're exceptional at what they do and or they're very, very difficult to replace, they might be a 10 out of 10 in terms of difficulty to replace. The score for them is a 10. After we've covered those first two questions, the third question is, what do we believe our likelihood of them leaving is? Now, how do you know that? Through good engagement with your team members. If it's not you having the conversation with a team member, it needs to be a trusted individual who you trust very highly and is very high in your seniority of your business structure to keep touching base with the individual. Someone just doesn't walk in one day and go, look, I'm going to share with you where I want to go and my aspirations were all of a sudden. That takes a journey. That takes constant check-in with people. Are they satisfied with the role? Is it fulfilling? Do they think they're getting paid a fair amount for the value they contribute to the business? That doesn't happen day one. That happens on an ongoing basis, and that's your responsibility as a business owner and a business leader to be doing those things. And the final element is, what would you need to do to keep them if you were fearful they were going to leave? Let's say we've got an individual who rates very highly on our desire to keep them on the team. And at the same time, we think they're about a 50% chance of leaving in the next 6 months. What are the things we believe we need to do to make that an 80, 90, maybe even a 95% chance of them staying in the next 6 months and beyond? Is it a pay increase? Is it flexibility of hours? Is it recognition? Is it career progression? Do they want to try a different role within the business? It's understanding all those elements, and that's where the communication comes in. How do you know what someone wants when you're not communicating with them at a more basic, ongoing level as well? The other element to remember is, what are their demands, if there are demands, and are they realistic? So for example, if you go to a team member and say, we really appreciate what you're doing, we really value what you provide, and we would like to offer you a 7% pay increase, and they go, I was actually hoping for 20, there's clearly a massive gulf between those two numbers. So there has to be a way to either find a middle ground that is both fair to you as a business and to them as an employee relative to the value they give. We've found with clients that have done this, it's really put their mind at ease, because all of a sudden you realize, do you know what? 92% of our staff are really engaged with our mission. They really enjoy our work the majority of the time. There's always going to be times where it's not so fun. And they think they're fairly paid. Yes, they're not getting paid $400,000 like they would on Wall Street, but also they're not sacrificing their whole life like they would at a place like that as well. So understanding the strengths that your business brings to the table, especially when a competitor for labor comes in. And that could be somewhere that's working remotely, which is far away from home, means living away from home. There are all these balances that have your business as the better alternative to somewhere else where they might be getting paid more as well. Once you've gone through this exercise, as we said at the start, you'll then control the narrative. People can't say, hey, you haven't spoken to me about pay in 2 years. You're constantly in communication with them, and you'll build and continue to build a stronger workplace culture. But you can't give pay increases without price increases. Otherwise, it's money that comes out of your pocket. There's no other way it comes. You'd be surprised at how small a price increase relative to the wage increase can make you cover that wage increase. So somewhere we work at, they gave a blanket 5% across the entire business increase in wages for the entire team. The management team or the senior management team were the owners of the business. So they knew their wage didn't need to change because their reward would be through extra profitability in the business. That 5% blanket increase in wages and therefore increase in superannuation or pensions and also associated taxes, they only needed to increase their price by 1.5% to cover it. So not even get ahead, that price increase covered the wage increase. If you're selling something for $100, $101.50 doesn't seem like a huge hurdle to clear. It's more being methodical in your process with your team members and the discipline to pass on those price increases because of the world we live in. It has to be done, or you as a business owner are the one paying the gap.